Good afternoon. My name is Dylan Malberg, and I'll be going through our market huddle with us here over the lunch hour. This week, we're going to be covering ways to gift tuition. I'm sure a lot of us here maybe have children or grandchildren, great-grandchildren, either going through college or maybe they have college coming up. And today, we'll be covering ways to, help them as far as paying for school is concerned. So, start with the disclaimer here. Nothing is that we're going to talk about today is meant to be specific financial advice. Always, consult with the professionals to make sure that everything is suitable for your individual situation. So, we think about gifting money to help with college. The first way that we'll talk about, we're going to cover three different ways today during our market huddle, is just giving outright cash gifts. There's an annual gift tax exclusion that I'm sure everyone knows about or has heard about. This year, $16,000 for individuals. Married couple, you can give double that. When it comes to a college student giving cash, there is sometimes it could be this generational skipping tax that can be imposed. But generally speaking, if you're going to be giving just cash gifts under the gift tax exclusion amounts, generally speaking, there's probably not a lot of things to worry about as far as gift tax is concerned. One thing with giving cash, and we'll come back to this as well, as when the students, and maybe whether if you're giving your grandchild, they're filling out the FAFSA, which is what their student aid is going to be based on. The cash gift is going to count against them. They're going to consider untaxed income, which could affect the amount of financial aid they get if they're in a situation where maybe they would get a grant or it's less student loans, whatever their case may be. But that cash gift will count against them as far as their contribution to their education. Looks like there's going to be a change to that here starting in 2024, 2025. But something to just consider if you are going to giving cash. Maybe it makes sense if they can get the student loans and fund their education throughout, whether they're going 2-4 years or longer, maybe gifting them cash at the end of their education to pay back the student loans at that point in time, therefore skipping the impact that it could have on the student aid with their FAFSA that they are filling out. Another option is to pay the tuition directly to the college. If, let's say, they're going to private school and their tuition is going to be more than $32,000, you're able to write checks directly to the institution directly, which gets around the gift tax of those $16,000 and $32,000. That gifting directly to the college is going to be limited to just tuition. You can't pay for room and board, books, gym memberships, I don't know, whatever else they might have there. It has to be just for tuition. And if that is something that you do end up doing, just make sure you check with the college. And it's going to be treated as untaxed income for the FAFSA in that area as well. But you are able to give more than the $16,000 to $32,000 if you pay it directly to the institution that they're going to. Look at 529 plans are probably the most common college saving plan that's out there. You get to put money in most states. You have to double check state to state, but I know that here in Minnesota there's a slight tax or income tax deduction on the state level. Every state's going to be different with their 529 plans, but allows you to put money in. It's going to grow tax deferred or potentially tax free as long as you take the money out of the 529 plan for qualified expenses, college expenses, meaning tuition, books and so on, so forth there, comes out tax free. So it's a great way. There are some limitations as far as being able to, maybe you're looking to pay for student loans or something after the fact. There's been some changes to make it a little more flexible to pay back student loans at 529s, but it's still not the most efficient way to do that. As far as getting money in the 529 plans, they do allow you to do a 5-year gift upfront with the 80, and then up to the $160,000 if you're a married couple. Again, there could be a potential state income tax deduction. 529s can be flexible as far as who the beneficiary is. Let's say that you have, little Johnny, who's the oldest grandchild, we'll say in this scenario. He's the beneficiary of the 529. He only uses half it through college. You're able to switch the beneficiary to his, your younger grandchild or another beneficiary at that point in time, and use that same 529 plan for a different child or beneficiary. Another thing with the 529 plan, let me go back here, is the distributions from the 529 plan also are going to be counted as that untaxed income that's going to count against the student on the FAFSA. So when taking distributions from the 529 plans, sometimes it may make sense to wait until their junior, maybe even the senior year to make distributions from the plan, because they look back a year starting on January 1st. So it's a calendar year that they look back on. So taking a distribution either January 1st of their junior year or senior year can sometimes limit the impact that the 529 plans can have, again, on the potential student loans, student aid that the students may be eligible for. We talked about giving cash just directly to the student, or maybe it's directly to the college. Another option that we could see is if you have maybe some highly appreciated stock or mutual funds or anything like that you've owned for a while that, if you were to sell them, you would be paying capital gains tax. It's going to impact your tax return more than if you were to gift, and say you had, $10,000 worth of like 3M stock that is highly appreciated. You'd be better off giving the $10,000 of stock to the college student who, in that case, if they're going to college, maybe they're working part-time, their income probably isn't very high. They're able to take the stock, they sell it in their name. Because their income's so low, they're not in a tax bracket where they end up paying capital gains tax on it. So they're able to liquidate the stock tax-free. You get to give the same amount for college. You don't pay tax on the gift. The student isn't going to pay tax on the capital gain from the sale of the stock because their income's lower and they're a college student. And then they can go and make their tuition payments or room and board, whatever they'd like to do. So another way to take advantage of maybe their lower income that they do have. Again, it just depends on your individual situation. If you have those, typically if you have primarily IRA assets or retirement accounts, it's hard to get those directly out without actually paying tax on them. But if you do have stock funds, maybe it's exchange traded funds outside of retirement accounts, that a lot of times is a great way to use that as gifting the positions. Again, moving it from your income, which would be at a higher bracket potentially, to your child, grandchild, whoever's going through school, who's probably in a lower tax bracket where they're not going to pay the long-term capital gains on the sale of that position. We talked about the gift tax exclusion earlier. Again, typically speaking, if you're keeping under $16,000, there's probably not a lot of issues or other paperwork that you're going to have to deal with. With that being said, another thing that can come into play is a kiddie tax, basically saying that if you're passing on, let's say we go back to the example of the 3M stock, they have the capital gains. Depending on the student situation, it could be a scenario where it comes back and then they pay tax on it at your tax rate. If they're over 24, that's not an issue. If they're a full-time student, if they have over $2,000 of earned income, it also is an issue. So if they're working part-time, at wherever they're working, probably isn't an issue. But just, when we do start making gifts of positions or any gifts at all, just double checking with your tax accountant and make sure that we're not going to run into any issues as far as gifting is concerned. When it comes to college education. again, back to the giving of the high appreciation, covering that. Again, that $2,100 of income a year, it's not an issue. If they're married too, let's say they get married younger, maybe they're in college, they're not susceptible to the K tax at that point either. Business owners have a little bit more of a benefit as well by gifting some of the highly appreciated assets. So there's some options there as well. Kurt, just looking at the questions here. I'd have to check on the Treasury I bonds. I have to double check that. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to, besides the fact that it's bought with the federal government. So maybe that would be an issue there. As far as an age limit for the student, if they're over 18, there really is, it's all pretty straightforward as far as gifting is concerned. If they're under 18, there's some other, just because they're a minor, 529s don't work quite as well because it's more for post-secondary education. But there's really no age limit for student. If you do have a child who went back to get their, graduate or master's, I don't know, whatever, they went back to school later in life, for the most part, all these rules are still going to apply to them as well. So just recapping, again, easiest way is usually cash. Again, just writing checks, paying for education. Really the big thing is going to be how is the FAFSA going to look at it as far as student aid, the cash, and also the distributions from the 529 plans, as well as the gifting directly to the college. All are going to be seen as untaxed income to the student as far as student aid is concerned. So depending on their situation, their parents' situation, depending on income levels and such, there could be some drawbacks potentially for taking distributions or doing some gifting that way. Any questions, feel free to reach out. We can discuss your situation further. Also, gifting appreciated assets, again, is a great way to give money, help the kids, grandkids, whatever it might be. You avoid paying the tax on, whether it's stocks, whatever it might be. They get to liquidate it and pay tax in their lower tax bracket that they're in, which is typically 0 right now. If they're in a 12% or lower tax bracket, they're going to pay 0% on those long-term capital gains. So next week, we'll have Bradford in the office running through our biannual beneficiary checks. Make sure you sign up for that. Just kind of double checking, making sure a lot of the things that are easy to fall through the cracks when putting together and opening accounts, and whether it's the 401k IRA accounts, just making sure that beneficiaries, everything's up to date as well. The 20th, we're going to have Ryan Dillon here, is going to have Tony Shankin from Minneapolis Portfolio Management Group talking about the growth versus value investing. And then make sure to keep an eye out for Monday, June 27th. We're going to have a lunch on there, and Joe's going to have his book launch. We'll be talking about his new book, The New Tax Secrets, which will be exciting. Looking for any other questions. Gary, I believe that the medical school, the 529 should still work for that. Again, depending on if we're paying for, again, tuition versus any other books, any other expenses. There can be some limitations there, but otherwise the 529 plan will work, whether it's 4-year college, medical school, master's, whatever it may be, it'll work the same way there. So if anybody does have any questions or would like to schedule a meeting or a call, put up a link here, I believe. Schedule your time, give the office a call, an email, or click on the link there. Schedule a quick call. If you have any other questions here or anything else regarding your plan, or you just want a second look at where you're at, feel free to reach out. I'm not seeing any other questions here. So everybody enjoy the rest of your day, your week. And we'll be back next Monday with another one of the market huddles. Everyone have a good week.